FM News Talk 97.1.
On demand audio.
But first, I want to update you on something coming out of Jefferson City that we've talked a lot about, and that is the issue of voter ID. Our guest is Senator Will Kraus, who's joining us right now via phone. And Senator, I guess the governor's veto of this must not have been unexpected.
No, it wasn't. Mark, thanks for having me back on.
Sure, absolutely. So where do we go from here? I mean, this was in my opinion, a little bit watered down version of voter ID to begin with, and even still, the Democrats chose to veto it.
I think that where we go now is veto override, and that'll be in September 13th or 14th, and I think we have the votes to override it. I actually think this bill was a perfect bill to implement photo ID. I mean, there's going to be some court challenges, and I think that everybody would say that this bill makes sure that everybody has an opportunity to vote, and therefore it's going to be hard for them to throw it out in the courts.
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe you could hit some of the highlights of it, because just to let people know, for example, my impression is even if you walked in to vote and you didn't have an ID with you, you could still vote provisionally. So nobody's going to be prevented from casting their ballot.
Absolutely. So if you walk in and you didn't know that the state law had changed and you said, I don't have an ID, there's two options for you. Number one, you can sign a statement under penalties of perjury that basically the statement says that you know that it's the state law for you to get a photo ID and that one will be provided for you. And you can sign that statement and vote a normal ballot. And the other one would be provisionally. If you didn't want to sign that statement, you could do a provisional ballot. And a provisional ballot counts if your signature matches the one that's on record. Okay. So have there been challenges, I'm assuming, in other states to voter ID where these provisions might prevent it from being overturned in court, is what you're saying? I think that with those two options, I find it very hard for a court to say that this is unconstitutional and this is blocking someone's right to vote. And that's what the governor basically vetoed the bill on. He said this is a fundamental right, voting is a fundamental right, and therefore we don't need to put these restrictions on it. But if you look at what's happened in other states and even in the U.S. Supreme Court, voter ID laws have been upheld and as constitutional, and the states have a right to put some restrictions on there and make sure that we can safeguard elections. And that's what photo ID does, is it safeguards our elections.
Yeah, and you have to do it. They probably need it in states like Illinois, but we can't concern ourselves with the dead people who vote in Chicago.
That's right.
This has been something you've been working on since the beginning, correct?
Yeah, we've actually passed voter ID now. This is the third time. We passed it first in 2006, and I was in the House and we voted for it. And at that time, Governor Blunt signed it into law, and that one was taken to the Missouri Supreme Court and was thrown out by the Missouri Supreme Court. So consequently, in 2011, we passed a constitutional change that says basically that the Missouri General Assembly can implement photo ID, and then we passed a statutory change. Well, the constitutional change in 2011 actually had a ballot title on it, and a court threw that out off the ballot because it said a Voter Protection Act, and the court said that there's nothing guaranteeing that it's protecting voters, and so they threw the constitutional change out, and the voters didn't get a chance to vote on it in 2011. And then at that time, Governor Nixon vetoed the statutory change. And so this is the third attempt on it, and I think that we've got it right now. And I actually picked up the ball up from Senator Stouffer. He actually had the 2011 version, and then he left the Senate, and I have filed it for the last few years. And it's been a long time coming, but we got it done this year, and the voters will get a chance to vote on whether we should change the Constitution in November, and then turn around. September, we'll have the opportunity to override the governor's veto on this. And I think we'll get it overridden, and so I think the voters in November will pass overwhelmingly. I encourage everyone to go out and vote for it in November, and then next year we'll be able to implement photo ID for the first time in Missouri's history.
Outstanding. Senator Will Kraus, also a candidate for Missouri Secretary of State on the primary ballot in August. I thanks for your time today.
Hey, Mark, thank you very much for covering this. You have a great day.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. I wanted to mention there that he is running for statewide office for Secretary of State, and obviously voter ID is something that has been on his radar because of the office that he's seeking there. So there you have it. We should get in the veto override session the right to carry concealed without a permit if you choose to do that. I wouldn't recommend it, but if you choose to do that, and voter ID. So we'll get that's just an update on a couple of the things that are coming up.